Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, a podcast created to allow a space for open, honest and vulnerable conversations with real people, all over a beautiful cup of coffee. We're here in my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. James, hi.
Hey, good, mate.
Yeah, not too bad. No, thank you for taking the time to come on and have a conversation. Obviously, bit of a way to maybe come down to the kitchen in Oxfordshire. So we're doing this one over Zoom because you're joining us from Scotland.
Yeah,
So
the fair old track.
Yeah, it's a bit of a way, but no, appreciate. Obviously, we actually connected for the first time. It would have been 2019, I think. I think that was when Boy Brews kind of first became a thing, and we kind of connected through Instagram. But I realize for some people listening or some people watching, they might not know what Boy Brews is. So are you all right to give a kind of brief introduction to yourself and what that kind of brand is and was and will be? Because I know it might be coming back.
Yeah. So I think kind of getting out of university, I think I lasted about a few months in an office job and realized quickly it was not for me. So I'd always been interested in kind of food production and food farming and everything. So kind of while I was doing the office job, I started working on weekends on a farm down in Gloucestershire. So and kind of just fell into agriculture really. So that's kind of what I did for 10 years. My interest in kind of food production, like traceability and everything, led me into coffee because I was drinking coffee every day and I had no idea where it came from. And I thought, I put all this effort into knowing and wanting other people to know where their food comes from. So it's not really fair that I don't know about coffee, and that opened the wormhole really. So yeah, eventually kind of just again, I seem to fall into a lot of things. Kind of fell into I wanted to raise some money and awareness for kind of mental health and use coffee to do it because I'd obviously had my own experiences and kind of struggles and things with my own mental health. So I just wanted to kind of do something and give back really. It was meant to just be like a one-off coffee that we kind of collaborated with somebody else on and kind of took off, which was great, but it took off at a terrible time in the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. So yeah, kind of fumbled our way into the industry and through a COVID pandemic for a while, but it just wasn't really sustainable at the time. So kind of hit the pause button, and that kind of probably brings us up to kind of now where we're trying to work out what we're doing again.
No, amazing. And I think and I mentioned how kind of we started connecting in 2019, and two things that you said about there, like coffee, kind of building on that interest, that passion. That was a similar time myself, through having had my own challenges with mental health as well. I kind of had some time off work and suddenly had a bit more time, and I was like, wanted to, do things for me, actually think what are my passions, what I'm interested in. Coffee was one of them. I kind of set up Cappuccino. It was also 2019. And Boy Brews, I remember, was one of the first kind of other Instagram pages I saw where you were kind of using, it's more than an Instagram page, but when I first saw it, of course, that was how I saw it. But the first seeing coffee and mental health kind of being together. And I think it's great that obviously some people might not be necessarily drawn to a full mental health page because it's something that's a bit scary. It's something that you maybe wouldn't want to follow, but using passions to kind of raise awareness and yeah. So I actually, like, no disrespect to other guests I've had on the podcast, this is one I was really looking forward to having this proper conversation with you, because I know we met for the first time in person earlier this year at the festival. But I mean, to anyone who's been, like, that is a busy day. Like, it's difficult to get time to actually have a conversation. And I guess especially for yourself, you came down on the sleeper train or something, didn't you?
I came down the day before, but I went home on the sleeper train. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think I was in London for about 36 hours. So
Oh wow.
it was intense, and yeah, London's so busy. Like I've been to other coffee festivals and things, but like it just seems like the whole industry, like not just in the UK, like there were people from
Mm.
roosters from all over the world kind of there, and yeah, God, it's a bit of a sensory overload, isn't it? Really, but
It's definitely, yeah. It's just one of those where, I mean, as much as I love it, it's 3 years in a row I've been to London now. But it can be almost, you wanna talk to everyone, you want to hear about everyone's coffee, their stories, and
yeah,
take in all this information. But at the same time, by the end of it, it's a proper I need to get away and have some quiet. Like,
yeah, especially if you're slamming coffees, like it's quite easy to do.
yeah,
I learned the hard way not to overdo it because the sensory overload combined with a caffeine overdose is
oh yeah,
not a good mix.
it's
But
a lot throwing that a little bit of anxiety.
yeah,
I've got
God,
any,
yeah,
it's a bit of a
yeah,
combination, but no. So you mentioned there about having kind of some struggles with mental health. So myself, I've kind of, Captain and I talk about, so kind of for me, it was really burnout, maybe through not acknowledging the signs or acknowledging how important it is for self-care or to have people to talk to. And I guess it's something where we've never really, so I know that Boy Brews was about mental health and stuff, but if you like to kind of share, if you're happy to sort of share a little bit more about your own kind of story or
yeah,
interest,
yeah,
so mental health, if that's all right.
yeah. Um, I think probably for me, I think probably quite common with a lot of people, kind of especially kind of early teenage years, probably.
Mm.
I think when kind of hormones and chemicals and brain stuff and all the other life stresses, it seems to be quite a common age that people start to kind of really experience maybe struggling with their mental health. And I think probably about 13, 14 was kind of when things really kind of started to hit the skids for me. Kind of depression, lots of suicidal thoughts, kind of not wanting to be here anymore, kind of just, just a pretty miserable time. But I think probably like a lot of kind of young men, I didn't want to talk about it, didn't feel like I could talk about it. I think kind of anger probably came out when I was a teenager as well. So kind of that I ended up kind of going to like the school counselor, but it was very much like there wasn't a lot in there. It wasn't a very comfortable space to talk about. It kind of was just the bare minimum. So like just like probably like a lot of men just wanted to kind of just get on with it, deal with it myself. I tried to learn more about it. My mum works for a mental health charity, so like I was kind of a bit more aware about things. But I guess then as I just kind of felt like it was part of my life and this was just normal. And I think a lot of the language and maybe some of the stereotypes around kind of mental health and depression and stuff in men, there's like, the black dog always follows you around. I
Mm.
just felt like this is what my life was like, and it was always going to be like that. And I just had to live with it. So I think 2017. So what, it's like kind of 14, 15 years of trying to do that, kind of going through university, struggling with all that, moving to Scotland, working in quite an isolated rural area. Just everything just caught up with me really, and I just ended up having a bit of a breakdown. I think so. We were just getting ready for lambing, so it would have been early spring 2017. Yeah, February 2017.
Yeah.
Just like prepping the shed, putting kind of the lambing pens and stuff together, and I just stopped and I just looked at my partner,
Mm.
Ione, and my wife, and I just said like I can't do this anymore, and I just started crying like, and I think it was like 14, 15 years just of pent up stuff. Just like I just reached a breaking point
Mm.
and just I cried, and I never thought like I was going to stop crying. Like I just kept going. I was in the shower, I was crying. I went to bed, I was crying, and like I cried for hours. Like, and I never thought like it was gonna stop. Um, yeah, and that was kind of a real. Obviously, that was a big, massive life event, but a big turning point. and I was really lucky. I went to see my GP. Kind of my wife had kind of pointed me in that right direction, and I knew I needed to do something. And like for the first time, I knew I needed to do something about it because it was affecting like my life and our relationship and stuff. And I knew it was not going to end well one way or the other.
Mm.
So, but I was so incredibly lucky. I think within 10 days of seeing the GP, I was having
Okay. Yeah.
CBT sessions with the mental health nurse.
Mm.
And, for a rural area, for like, anybody's kind of experiencing kind of mental health issues or mental illness, like that's such a phenomenally lucky and rare occurrence.
Mm.
So yeah, that was huge. And like for the first time in my life, I was able to talk about it to somebody, even just for an hour a day or half an hour sessions a week, just to talk to somebody. And that was the first time I realized like I didn't have to be like this. Like this,
Yeah. It's
this was like a not like a necessarily a condition or an illness, but like I didn't have to live with it. There were things I could do, and I could learn to manage it and kind of work through things and stuff. So yeah, I think that was kind of the big turning point, really, for
yeah.
me.
I think it is. No, thank you, mate, for kind of talking about that. And again, I can see kind of some parallels in myself, and I think it must be so common. I know the conversation is happening more and more, but where just especially maybe for young guys, just that kind of feeling, oh, I've got to carry this, or
Yeah,
this is how it is. And I think, as you say, until that, there's only so much someone can carry. Had something like that kind of breaking point for me. It was during doing my PhD, and had one day I was just no, I'm need just a day off, which was so like not me. Like
yeah,
I'm trying to get better at it, but it was such like an achiever. I have to be doing all the time. And I was just like, no, I'll just have one day off and then, have a bit of a rest and go back. Like never went back in the lab after that. I had one day off and my body was just
yeah,
shut down. And it was just, for me, that was then when, as you say, about almost having to do something because it's then realizing it's impacting your life, but also people around you.
yeah,
Something that maybe I hadn't seen before. And then, yeah, but I think that's why I say things like you're doing with the Farm Boy Brews or cappuccinos, just those spaces, trying to have conversations. People say, look, it's okay to feel those certain things. It's okay to feel down sometimes, have those negative things, but you don't have to carry it all by yourself. Like, and just because that's maybe what you've known as your normal or
yeah,
normality, it doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. And I think that is, again, it's such like an eye-opening thing. Like for me, I mean, it's a bit maybe cliche, but I had like a bit of life coaching and stuff as well after I'd had my kind of time, as well as therapy, because I'd had like the kind of CBT, but during lockdown, actually, I saw this kind of like life coach, Alex Manzi was his name. And it was a bit different, something that was a bit more engaged. Like maybe there was a group of us and it was like group conversations and things. And something that I've heard him say recently in podcasts is like his breakdown was also his breakthrough, because it's almost like it was going to happen at some point. You can't,
yeah,
so
yeah,
much you can carry. And like, I guess I'm grateful that it happened when I was 22. So it meant I had like, cause I could have still been in labs now working away, not experiencing life the way I wanted to, or not have had that kind of breakthrough to then realize, oh, okay, I can talk and things. So I guess I just, yeah, it's a bit cliche, but I quite like the kind of a breakdown is also a breakthrough, trying to like see it in that if it means you then get the help that you need or start talking,
yeah,
then it's like a positive.
yeah. I think it can be cliche, and I think the conversation around kind of mental health has moved on like
Mm.
quite drastically, like in a very short time, I think. Um, but it still is. There's still like a lot of like language is still really complicated. Like it is really complicated, and I think there are kind of cliches, and sometimes I find some things quite frustrating. In terms of like there are positive slogans and hashtags that people will share, but people still aren't really ready to engage in like real conversations. Like
Yeah.
I think now some stuff can be taken as a bare minimum, and people like will share it and give themselves a pat on the back, kind of once a year and stuff. But at least those conversations are happening, you know, at least that's something. Like, I think,
Yeah, it's progress, and I guess it's those slogans, as you say, where I guess maybe, yeah, maybe is it such a bad thing that it's a cliche, because that means that at least it's being spoken about, you know.
yeah,
It wouldn't be
yeah,
a cliche if it was something that no one ever spoke about. But yeah, it is that there's kind of a surface level, I feel.
yeah,
We want to show that we're aware that mental health is a thing, and we want to make sure that we're aware of that. But then actually, are you engaging in that, and what does that look like in, I don't know, workplaces, or in families, in friendship groups and things like that? It's there's levels to it.
yeah, yeah. It's so complicated. But I guess, you know, we've been studying and talking about physical health for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, and kind of, I think mental health has, you know, a long, you know, has nowhere near that kind of history, and we're all still working it out, kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
there
from
is
the
no
medical profession to the people
yeah,
just going through it daily. So yeah, it is, you've just got to try and focus on how far it's come, and
yeah,
maybe
definitely.
not how far it's got to go, but
Yeah, it's one of those though. Yeah, you could really like deep it, and it could as people do, I'm sure, like researchers and everything in it. But I think there's maybe with physical health, there's more of like as you say, because there's been so many years of research, there's almost like a how to, or I know bodies are different and there's not a one size fits all necessarily, but compared to maybe the diversity that there is in people's minds and thoughts,
yeah,
the way people are and behaviors, and like there's so much added complications, I think, when it comes to mental health.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think that's the thing, you know, there's no one size fits all um kind of treatment or kind of response or attitude or anything to kind of mental health and mental illness. Like, even mental health, it compromises. It's like compromises everything. Like, you know,
Mm.
people talk about mental health, and it might be somebody with anxiety or depression, or, you know, actually really it covers people to living with, like, you know, catastrophic, life changing,
Mm.
you know, illnesses and conditions that don't, you know, that affect their life to the point where, you know, they just deal with things totally different. So, you know, it's such a huge spectrum of kind of conditions and things that affect people, but all gets kind of put under that one little kind of
Yeah,
tag, I guess. It's yeah,
yeah, definitely. But as we say, conversation is it seems to be moving in the right way. Seems to be moving in the right way, particularly. Well, I mean, I've noticed at like my workplace where I am now compared to previously, like when I was 22, when I was a bit younger. But then at the same time, again, we talk about perspectives. I don't know how much support maybe was there at the time, but I was my barriers were definitely up
yeah,
in terms of I didn't necessarily want to let it in, because especially like PhD is competitive. I was like, I want to show that I'm the next big thing, and that I can make an impact, and I don't need help. I don't need support. I'm going to do it. And again, that's a difficult thing. But no, I'm talking of kind of, yeah, saying mental health and coming through. So you mentioned as well, Farm Boy Brews is potentially coming back. It's kind
yeah,
of, I don't
yeah,
know. I think I've seen that you started to kind of post a little bit on the social media again when we had a conversation at social media.
yeah.
I guess
Yes,
this is a
we
space, if you want to kind of say about what it's going to look like, and what that's going to
yeah. Well, I'm still trying to work out what it's going to look like, to be honest.
put you on the
Yeah,
spot
yes,
there.
we're definitely coming back. Um, I'm roasting again. I'm roasting at the minute. Just working out.
Oh, nice.
It'll very much probably be small batch coffee roastery, kind of based up here, but hopefully kind of um just get out again, get
Yeah,
conversations open, you know, get the coffee machine out, get out to markets and events, and um hopefully roast some really good coffee, serve some really good coffee, and kind of, obviously the coffee is so important. Especially, you know, I love coffee, but, you know, we want to use it as a real tool for good, a vehicle to open conversations, and kind of try and do some good with it. I think that's what we tried to do last time. That's what we want to do again. Kind of long term, maybe as we grow, kind of to be able to whether we go down the social enterprise route, that's something we're looking at the minute. To be able to offer training or like events, all sorts. Anything I can think of that I want to do.
Amazing.
I want to do.
That's what's cool though. There isn't. I guess we don't have to. There is no limitation. Um,
No. Yeah.
See where it goes organically, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
say that's
Hopefully.
what happened maybe first time. Like you said, it was just going to be a single coffee, and then
Oh yeah. Last time was crazy. It was like
yeah,
somebody pushed. It was like that bit in Indiana Jones, like somebody let the boulder go, and
it
I was
just kept going.
just trying to run away from it.
Yeah.
So trying to be a bit more controlled this time around, maybe put some more boundaries in place, just because
Mm.
obviously the business and is such a personal thing, and is so interwoven in a very personal thing for me, but also a very personal thing that kind of I went through and I'm still going through and that I live with every day.
Mm.
Um, and it's so great and a privilege to be able to have those conversations, but also it's really hard. Like I still find it really difficult. I'm still going through every day. Like I
Mm.
don't know what I'll wake up and what kind of state I'll be in. So it's quite hard. It's wonderful to have these conversations, but when you're having them over and over again, like it's like picking a scab. And I don't know why, but I find talking about mental health and like what I've been through, like I have like a physical reaction to it.
Mm.
Like I find it physically exhausting.
Yeah,
Like quite
it's
often I'll do it and then I'll just be ruined. Like I'll probably go to bed this afternoon. Like I'll just be wiped. Like
yeah,
I find it physically draining, which is hard.
yeah.
So
I guess I'd say it's that protecting yourself.
yeah.
It's as much as you want it to go as far as it can go.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being aware, yeah, that you're putting yourself. It's a lot for yourself to go through, and I think it's interesting. I've actually, or even say like with Cappuccino again, I initially just set up an Instagram page. I didn't even put my name or face to it initially because it was. I think there was a bit of not not shame, maybe guilt, embarrassment. Maybe I was embarrassed, like, oh, what if friends that I've known through school or through growing up,
Yeah.
they see that I'm now suddenly got this page talking about mental health and things. There was that little bit of uncertainty. And obviously, initially, it was just coffee anyway. It was just reviewing cafes and
Mm-hmm.
posts about mental health just got traction. And that was how I was feeling at the time. So I put it out. And then, but I didn't think I'd be sponsoring a football team, have my own coffee with Jericho Coffee Traders. Like now doing this podcast is like the next step. But so this is actually small milestone. This will be episode 5 when we come to announce this is the 5th conversation I've had. And I've had them in quite a short space of time. And even for myself, as you're saying, it can be quite tiring. Like
Yeah.
having real conversation, having kind of, conversation that brings up emotions or you're talking about real things. So I think I'm definitely wary for myself. I don't want to overdo it. So I'll do like maybe a series and then have a bit of a pause and then we'll bring back another series because when I'm working full time alongside it, trying to do my cappuccino stuff, I'm a bit like, it's bank holiday Monday now and we're having this deep
Yeah.
conversation, which is great. And I'm so, like you say, I'm grateful to have these spaces and these conversations. But yeah, I guess for ourselves or people in that space, you've got to protect yourself as the priority, really.
I think that's the hard thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I imagine you'll be the same as me. You want to do these things and talk about these things to help other people.
Mm.
Like, that's what I want to do. I want to help other people who have been in a position I've been in or haven't. I was incredibly lucky. Like so many men our age, die on waiting lists just to see a
Yeah.
doctor. Like to be able to just kind of normalize conversation and help people and like donate to charity and do outreach and stuff is amazing. And it's such a privilege, but like we're probably both really bad at like making sure we're all right as well. Like, I care so much about helping other people and I want to have these conversations. And like, it's not like I feel like a responsibility to do it, but I feel that when I am in a space that I can do it and like I'm in a mental state that I'm well enough to do it, that I should do it. I guess there is a self-imposed responsibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've got to be a lot better at doing it
Yeah.
when I can do it, not like just burning myself out because then that is, yeah, it's just exhausting.
Yeah. It's exhausting. And then I think, yeah, though I can totally relate to that self-imposed kind of responsibility. If I'm in a space when I'm feeling, and I notice so my historically my mental health or my burnout has been quite cyclic in terms of really active, really doing loads, like whether that be work or cappuccino stuff. And
Yeah,
I get on a bit like you say about the boulder. That's a great way to describe it. When I'm on a roll, I'm just like, I go and I go and I go because I guess at that time I'm in a good headspace or I'm feeling well. So I'm like, okay, what is my capacity when I'm in this good headspace? But I almost like need to get better at planning. Well, what is my capacity when I'm not in a great headspace? Because otherwise I'll get into that space. It's part of life. As you say,
yeah,
I still have those days where it's a struggle. I still have weeks, times when it's difficult.
yeah,
But if I'm just giving myself more pressures and stresses, if I'm trying to work at that capacity when I'm not feeling great myself, so I think
yeah,
that's part of like the conversation as well, is that like almost it's, and I guess for people who have kind of depression and anxiety, it's just being able to kind of manage around that, because you're not going to make it necessarily go away.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's going to be there. So it's just being able to accommodate around it and make sure that you're able to kind of live with it.
Yeah, and not beating yourself up when you have those
Mm.
off days and
Yeah,
like
like less
just
productive
accept
days.
that,
Yeah,
right, yeah, like when I went to CBT, like a lot of CBT for people who don't know is about putting structures in place to kind of break cycles and prevent those behaviors and
yeah,
before it reaches like those points. But I was having a conversation with somebody else about this. Actually, it's sometimes it's really hard when you know what you need to do and you've got these kind of things in place to break cycles and that make you feel better. But when that doesn't work, and you still
yeah,
end up in that slump,
yeah,
actually, like sometimes I feel it's easier when I just thought I was always miserable. But it's about when you hit those lows, just accepting, right, you know, I'm gonna come out the other side of it.
mm.
And I'm really like I'm so bad at self care and I'm so bad at like I always just want to go 100 miles an hour and work through everything. And but kind of when you're living with depression or anxiety or OCD or whatever, like it just doesn't work like that.
No,
And
you've
like
got to.
you've just got to accept, right,
Yeah,
I'm just going to be kind to myself and not beat yourself up. And which is something I'm still working on. But
no, yeah, I'm difficult considering the tagline, right, of my page and everything's self care is not selfish.
mm,
I, it's a message to myself more than anyone else. I try.
yeah,
It's like a reminder to myself because I'm the same. Like my partner would tell you, she's I'm the worst. She gets so frustrated when even like this weekend I did pop into the office yesterday. There was a few bits that I wanted to sort and everything so that I was ahead of the game or something for next week. And like as much as I know that it can wait, it's not the end of the world. Like once I get fixated on something, or if I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to relax tomorrow now because I know that that's not done and I'm going to have to do it. Da, da, da. So I ended up, we had like a nice brunch, had a nice like Sunday together. And then I was like, okay, I'm just popping into the office for a bit and stuff. And it's crazy, like considering, yeah, my tagline is self care is not selfish, but I'm the same definitely in that want to go 100 miles an hour and feel like, but it came from when I was younger, I think, and doing is obviously a distraction from being. So like doing is a way to you keep your mind busy, so you avoid having to have time with my
yeah,
own company sometimes, which I'm trying to get better at. I know for some people self-care looks like meditation and really quiet and things like that, and but then for other people self-care might be for me one of the biggest forms of self-care is going to a game of football. Just it's because it's something where I'm fixated, or sports, or I'm focused on something and it matters, but it really doesn't matter.
yeah,
So whatever the result, I'm going to feel better for going to that game kind of thing.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I like baseball for that
Yeah.
because I'm really bad at switching off. Baseball
Mm.
is like this really kind of good middle ground where it's 3 hours long. And essentially, it can be quite a simple game. Essentially, someone hits a ball with a stick, but actually,
Summed it up
you
for
can
anyone.
you can really go deep in with the stats and stuff as well. So like, I can relax and be occupied. If that makes sense. 'Cause I have my brain like I'm so bad at switching off.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually, like something like that, where I might struggle to get engaged with like a 90-minute game of football sometimes, depending on my mood or whatever. Something like baseball, like if I want to just veg out and do something with nothing for 3 hours, I
that's
can do that, or I can, I can do the same thing but be kind of active with RBIs and people's stats and kind of
yeah, yeah.
looking at all sorts of kind of the analytical side of things as well. So, but
Yeah, yeah. I'm a stats person. We spoke a little bit at Coffee Festival about that. I think, and like it's how I'm into like basketball. Talking of American sports like basketball,
yeah,
that's kind of during lockdown. There was not football wasn't happening, and for me, I started to feel that
mm-hmm.
as much as yeah, it's just a game, and that was my I don't know every weekend something you can switch off and don't have to worry about it and just enjoy it. And so yeah, and then the basketball they were playing in Disney World, weren't they? Disneyland or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Them all in the bubble, which is crazy. And I don't know if that was the best thing for player welfare, but that's a whole other conversation about getting them all in a bubble away from their families for 80 days during a pandemic and just making them play basketball. But anyway, that's that's another conversation. But yeah, and again with that, I really enjoyed because all the stats and it's like there's always numbers coming up on the screen and stuff. So like you say, you can keep your mind busy with stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which is yeah, I'm the same. Switching off is not the easiest. That's why
No.
even with this like this podcast, I'm always like kind of what's next
Yeah.
for kind of like cappuccino, and I guess maybe with Farm Boy Brews, as you say, that's where you're like wherever we can do good, we want to do good. But like you say, it's those having those boundaries for yourself, or like with me, like having boundaries. Like okay, I'm doing this podcast thing now, but it's all been like I'm filming it, editing it, putting it out all myself, and like doing that alongside work. Like
Yeah.
not make myself unwell or burn out by putting
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
to try
Yeah.
and encourage mental health. You know what I mean? It's like a weird contradiction almost in a way.
Yeah. It can be a vicious circle if you're not careful there.
Yeah. But no, it's about conversations like this and even like you sharing earlier about your kind of story and stuff. Like they do make an impact for sure. They make an impact. But yeah, it's but yeah, in terms of I guess you mentioned there that you're not great at self-care.
Oh yeah.
And I think
Understatement of
that
the century.
yeah, I understand. Yeah. And I think it's all myself as well. I find it difficult. And we're saying like everyone's different, everyone's unique. So you mentioned kind of baseball. Do you have any other kind of self-care? The way you've said that you're not great at it, maybe you might find it funny me saying, what are your tips for self-care? You're like,
Yeah, I'm so bad at it. Like I'm so bad at like switching off. I'm so bad at taking a break. But again, yeah, I think like you say, self-care is an individual thing, isn't it? Like
mm,
I think probably I wouldn't have called it that at the time, but kind of getting into coffee was self-care because it's quite ritual. It can be quite ritualistic, especially when you kind of get into like manual brews, V60s, kind of extracting espresso. Like that was like 5-10 minutes of a day that I just wasn't like thinking about work or like farming or stressing about something dying or like just being miserable. I just switched off for like 10 minutes. So I guess probably making a cup of coffee in my daily kind of first brew of the day or whatever is probably
yeah.
like a little act of self-care. Yeah, big one for watching sports, though I'm really competitive. I played sport most of my life, quite competitive. So I don't know how calming or
Yeah.
caring for myself it is when I'm like effing and jeffing at the telly. Because I have a horrendous habit of supporting very bad sports teams. I kind of go in and out of it, but like I've always been into wrestling, like since I was little. Like
Okay.
since so I will kind of just tune into 3 hours of like WrestleMania or something, and that's a good way to switch off. I collect some books. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a huge reader, but yeah, I collect copies of Dracula. So I like
Okay.
going book hunting.
Okay, so if you're like, if there's like what, a charity shop or like a
Oh
nice,
yeah, charity shops. Yeah,
yeah,
charity shops. Waterstones. Like I would look on, I look online. Yeah, I like a good hunt for mainly Draculas, but also trying to build up a collection of Asterix and Obelix
okay,
books.
oh yeah,
I was
yeah,
big into them when I was a kid. I'm gonna highly recommend the new film on Netflix because I
yeah.
barely laughed at it.
New film. I didn't know there was a new one out, so there
Yeah,
was
yeah, it
something
came
for
out
me.
like last Friday. So
Okay,
I was I was working at a coffee event for Origin, the
oh yeah,
Roosters.
yeah.
They were up here for a big event. I did a couple of days with them. Yeah, so like I made like 300 coffees on like an
Mhm.
afternoon at Friday and then came home and watched Asterix. Yeah, I guess like everybody's different, isn't it? I
Yeah, and I think
really got into
the thing.
running during the pandemic because I couldn't go anywhere or do anything apart
Mm.
from like like have your exercise and like I got into that, but like I've kind of fallen out of that mainly because uh kind of rugby injuries and stuff kind of catching up with me. It's not the most comfortable of things for me at the minute, but yeah, I guess anything that can distract me for enough time that I can switch off my brain, uh,
Yeah,
which is not the easiest task, but um,
no,
yeah,
I think, yeah, even the kind of array of things you kind of said there, as you say, it's the things that people wouldn't necessarily think of self care. And I love what you said about the coffee and like you wouldn't have called it self care.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
no,
true. When you ask people, and I guess I've done it, I've put you on the spot and asked you, but when someone asks you what do you do for self care, it's actually really difficult to answer for a lot of the time because
yeah,
you don't realize until you actually kind of step back and think about it. Oh yeah, I do that for myself, and I'm the same. I think definitely. I mean, I've been making less coffees at home recently now. I think though, for me, that is a sign that maybe I'm busy and I'm not taking
yeah,
time for myself because
hmm
even yeah, just pouring doing like a flat white, doing a nice pour, and the whole process of just brewing the coffee is almost that's when the enjoyment of coffee starts. It's not just the drinking the coffee; it's the whole process, and then like
yeah,
we talk about the sensory stuff like the smell and
mm,
the just the taking time. So yeah, so I think for me that's probably a sign that I'm maybe not taking enough time for myself because I'm not making coffees as much. Because if I was, that's something that I do when I feel like oh, I've got time and I can just do something for me. So that's definitely something, and a lot of people maybe who will be listening or watching, just from the nature of our two pages or our interests, there'll be people, a lot of people I think who can relate to that one. um,
yeah,
Making coffee and just yeah, spending time doing something that is like a passion for no reason other than you enjoy doing it. And there's a
yeah. It's great and like especially when coffee is just so it's just enormous, like you say.
yeah,
There's so many different ways you can kind of explore it, like whether it is kind of going and finding coffee shops and kind of
mhm,
sitting in there and people watching and things to like brewing something at home, or if you want to really go down the route of kind of getting into the sensory stuff, like and really be scientific about it. Like I'm really bad at like I guess like I want to know everything about everything like all the time. But like coffee's always changing. Like
yeah,
coffee's always changing. There's always something new. There's new processes coming out. Kind of the harvests are obviously, it's seasonal and cyclical and something different every year. Like I can't get bored of it. Like I can't learn everything. Like, there's always so much more to learn in like in like other industries and like in agriculture, but actually like the very base level of it, like I got it really quickly. I'm good at
yeah.
it. Like and it doesn't really change. So like actually that's not great for me, somebody who can get bored quite easily. Whereas like coffee's like
There's always you can never complete
always
it. Like
something. Yeah.
yeah, you'll never complete it. There'll always be something
hmm
to learn. And I
Yeah.
think
Like
yeah,
a
like
World Cup, like a Panini World Cup sticker book, you'll never bloody complete
you never complete it, never complete it.
yeah.
But yeah, and like you say, even about going into coffee shops. I know for me, if I'm going on holiday somewhere, or we're going to a new town, or even if I'm going somewhere for work, I'll always find where's a nearby like
Yeah.
specialty coffee shop and somewhere that maybe I haven't tried before. And it was something on a previous episode that will be out by the time this goes out. With coffee, Alauda, Francesca, she mentioned as well how coffee, when you hear the term coffee or let's go for a coffee, or particularly specialty coffee shops, like it's so much more than just the drink. It's
Yeah.
in those kind of spaces, people tend to work there. They've got a passion. They really enjoy what they're doing, rather than the more like commercial, like chain shops, which obviously serve a purpose, but it's
Yeah.
a very different experience. And so you can like I found I'll go to places I don't know, and you can ask them about the coffee, and they almost like their eyes like that. They want to have those conversations, and
Yeah.
they want someone to appreciate the work that they're doing, rather than just get me my coffee kind of thing. I'm tired and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. But
so
I
that
think like, specialty coffee is such a, there's so many incredible creative people from like so many different backgrounds and stuff. Like, and I've always found it a really, for the most part, a really welcoming kind of
yeah
inclusive place. Like, so yeah, you never know who you're going to meet in a specialty coffee shop. Like,
yeah
or in the industry, there are people from all over the world. Like, we went out to New Zealand, and like, you just have these conversations and like these moments where you bond with people
mm,
over these things. Like, are people who are excited to find out that, oh, you work in coffee. Like, where do you work? What do you do? Like, and like, you'll have these kind of 20-minute conversations over a cup of coffee
yeah.
with people on the other side of a bar. And like, yeah, it's
So
such a cool experience. And you come away, yeah, you've obviously, you're caffeinated and that itch is scratched, but there's so much more in
yeah
that. And there's so much care that goes into crafting a really
mm,
good cup of coffee, I think, yeah, it is more than just the coffee in it.
yeah, definitely. And once it's almost like you say, you don't know what you don't know, but once you kind of get back a few layers of the surface of coffee, and you realize how much, as you say, how much care has gone into making that cup of coffee. It is like a proper, and then it's a treat, and then it's also great to hear about it from the people who are making it. But no, awesome. I think just looking at time, we'll probably bringing that to an end.
Oh yeah,
But
I
no,
will talk all day otherwise.
yeah, no, I'm the same. Yeah, it's these kind of conversations, I could just keep going and going and going. But no, as I say, really appreciate it, James, and or Farm Boy Brews on Instagram. There we go. And yeah, no, I look forward to obviously seeing what's coming, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be ways we can maybe like connect or do something. I'd love to come up to an event or something that you do, and
Yeah, hopefully, like,
get up on
kind of,
that sleeper train and see
it's
what.
pretty cool. I can highly recommend it.
I mean, I've never been to Scotland, so I do need to.
There we
I feel
go.
like I've just said we're finishing, and I feel like I've just opened a can of worms with that one. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I'd only been here once before I moved up here, so
Oh, fair enough.
um,
Fair
but
enough.
yeah,
But no,
yeah. No, thanks so much for having me, mate. It's been a long time since I've done anything like this, and it's always quite a daunting thing to kind of open yourself up and talk about these things. But
yeah, yeah,
it's always nice to find a safe space and a good egg to have these kind of conversations with. So
100%.
thanks for having me.
No worries at all. No worries at all. And enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation. I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like and subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, but also if you head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Cappuccino. This is the best place to contact me, but also see the latest developments on the platform as we look to increase awareness of mental health through my passions for coffee and football. In addition, if you've heard something that you can relate to or you want to talk about a little bit more, feel free to message me on that platform. But also, if you fancy coming on yourself and having a conversation, then do let me know, because I'm always keen to connect with new people and get insights into other areas and other passions and other challenges that I might have no experience of myself. Thanks again, and I really hope you tune in for the next episode. Take care of yourselves. I've been Hans. Thank you.